This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You know, I'm going to beat him up. Was that from some movie? I haven't heard that phrase in a long time until President Trump just said it to Trey Yingst. Now, Trey's gotten a little bit better. You know, he was very kind of, we're going to be fair and balanced when it comes to the terrorists and the Israelis. You know, the Israelis say this, they wouldn't call them terrorists, right? The freedom fighters or whatever, euphemisms. Always using a euphemism. But he seems a bit more grounded now, shall we say. A couple of highlights from this interview, in addition to the one that I did the night before. It's very interesting whenever you talk to the president, everybody gets very excited. And you do too, actually. You do too. But then you realize, I do this all the time. This shouldn't be a bigger deal, and your head can get in the way. I think about President Trump says, if you think about it too much, you can choke. And you'll notice sometimes he shows up and it's just, he doesn't seem to have any concern. And this is a positive. It's a compliment. Whether it's Trey Yingst in front of him in a chair or the UN General Assembly or, Joe Biden on the debate stage or Kamala Harris on the debate stage or Hillary Clinton, it doesn't matter. Same person no matter what. He doesn't change because of the size of the crowd or who's in the crowd or whether it's a crowd or not. In person, on the phone. I think that's something really to be emulated. It's hard to replicate because most of us are not going to be in front of a crowd of, 100,000 people giving a speech or being interviewed on network TV, potentially a hostile interview on network TV. When you throw anything at somebody, they're ready for anything. And that's what he is. He's ready for anything. So we're bombing the hell. We're beating them up. And we are getting closer, although we haven't engaged civilian targets over there. Desalinization plants, civilian infrastructure, that kind of thing. Because, we don't have a beef with the Iranian people. It would be nice if they started to kind of fix this situation on their own, if you know what I mean. Lots of countries have overthrown dictatorships and the rest. You guys could do the same thing. Granted, you don't have the weapons, and however, I think arrangements have been made in that respect, right? In that regard, we've thrown a few weapons their way. So it would be helpful, but you know what? Not necessary. If you guys are up to it, great. If you're not, oh well, we'll figure out a way. Every Supreme Court justice should be living not in the neighborhood of anywhere where there are regular people, because if you live with regular people, bad people can drive by your house and do something terrible. I'm talking about Supreme Court justices who are very, very important, the decisions, and they're targets. They are targets. Justice Kavanaugh was a target. And unfortunately, you're a target because lawmakers want you dead. Chuck Schumer still should be locked up for this public threat of violence against Supreme Court Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch. This is the full clip, which I've never actually watched the entire thing. And I want to do this now. You, Gorsuch! You, Kavanaugh, we're going to blow your heads up. The whirlwind. The fire. Remember that? Hit it if you don't mind. Cut 15.
Inside the walls of this court, the Supreme Court is hearing arguments, as you know, for the first major abortion right cases since Justices Kavanaugh and Justices Gorsuch came to the bench. We know what's at stake. Over the last 3 years, women's reproductive rights have come under attack in a way we haven't seen in modern history. From Louisiana to Missouri to Texas, Republican legislatures are waging a war on women, all women. And they're taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. The bottom line is very simple. We will stand with the American people. We will stand with American women. We will tell President Trump and Senate Republicans who have stacked the court with right-wing ideologues that you're going to be gone in November and you will never be able to do what you're trying to do now, ever again. You hear that over there on the far right? You're gone in November. We are here to send these folks a message, not on our watch. So let me ask you, my friends, are we going to let Republicans undo a woman's right to choose? Are we going to stay quiet as they try to turn back the clock? Are we going to give up or waver when things get tough? No, we're going to stand together in one voice and take a stand on behalf of women and families throughout the country. We're going to stand against all these attempts to restrict a woman's right to choose, and we will win.
Whoa. Well, there were 2 or 3 federal crimes that occurred there. That was a threat. That was an absolute threat against a sitting Supreme Court justice. You ain't allowed to do that. And then he got very, very dark about, what's going to happen to us. The far right. You got that, the far right. If you're going to get President Trump for chewing gum, you can get Chuck Schumer on that. Led to such a situation where Supreme Court justices can legally be harassed wherever they go. But that's against the law. Remember KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, possibly one of the most ignorant people to ever enter a White House. And I'm talking about, including people who took a tour of the White House, right? I mean, anybody who's ever been in the White House, I think she is the dumbest. And through a confluence, a comedy of errors, you might say, or comedy of cultural blunders, she was the only one viewed as qualified for that job. Now, why is that? Oh, I remember. She is a black, gay, ignorant woman. No, a black, gay. Well, she is a black, gay, ignorant woman, but she was a black, gay, immigrant woman. That was it. Black and gay. And I thought she was using that job. She talked about being lesbian so much that I really thought she was using the podium to meet girls, putting it out there a lot. Way too much. And then any show she would go on. I mean, what was her? I mean, sex was on her mind a lot. All right. Karine Jean-Pierre saying it's A-OK to basically riot in front of a Supreme Court justice's house or get in their faces in a restaurant. Cut 13.
Where's the line? If these protesters can go to a justice's house and they can go to a restaurant, where is it that you don't think it's appropriate for a group of protesters to go?
I just laid out, you asked me about intimidation. We condemn intimidation. We condemn any violence, and we've been very clear. It is a clear definition of what violence is and what intimidation is. Peaceful protest, people should be allowed to be able to do that.
In a restaurant?
If it's outside of a restaurant, if it's peaceful, for sure.
Really?
Peaceful protest. Your first question to me was intimidation.
So these justices, because
violence.
Protesters do not agree with an opinion that they signed on to, have no right to privacy, is what you're saying.
But Peter, this is people have the right to, this is what a democracy is. People have the right
to privacy?
Of course people have a right to privacy, but people also have a right to be able to protest peacefully.
So peacefully, that does not mean taking over a street and parading in front of a Supreme Court justice's house. It's specifically, there's a statute that says you can't do that. Now, it goes out the window. It ain't peaceful when you take over streets. And that's the thing. They pretended that Black Lives Matter was peaceful. But by definition, it wasn't. The moment you step off the sidewalk and take over a street, they didn't get permits for any of that stuff. Peaceably assemble. First Amendment right to peaceably assemble. Is your right to peaceably assemble? Like, you can peaceably assemble, but if you get in my way on the street. Anyway, poor Justice Kavanaugh, they almost killed him over this stuff. And Amy Coney Barrett is like biting her nails every step of the way. Amy Coney Barrett is not cut out for the Supreme Court. Just listen. Cut 11. Yes, sir.
I thought I would just share a little bit about how the threats have affected me and my family personally. They have required me to, my children, to think about and see things that children should not have to see or think about. One example is when threats to my life were particularly intense a few years ago, around the time of the Dobbs leak. My security detail sent me home with a bulletproof vest, and I carried it into my house, put it into my bedroom, dropped it down on a table, turned around, and my 12-year-old son was standing in the doorway of my bedroom, and he wanted to know what it was and why I had it. And I didn't know how to respond because maybe I lack imagination, but I didn't expect that performing this service was going to put me in the position of explaining to my children what a bulletproof vest was and why I had to wear one.
Stop. All right, she's being a little melodramatic. When I was 12 years, any kid knows what a bulletproof vest is. By the time you're 7, has he watched a cop show, for crying out loud? I was watching SWAT, the cool one, in 1976. Diddle-land, 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 diddle-land. Remember that theme song? It was so cool. And they all wore bulletproof vests. Kids are fascinated by bulletproof vests. You mean it stops a bullet? Anyway, this is her. They want more money for security. I'm all for that. They want more security. They want more officers to guard them. I'm all for that. But I'm also for you got to be tough. And I'm not sure where this sob story just gives me insight into why she's become wishy-washy on the court, why she gives Trump those long, dirty looks, and she probably doesn't have enough security. I say put them on Fort Myer or Fort McNair or Fort Belvoir. These are big military bases in the Washington, D.C. area. They have wonderful housing, wonderful housing, places to live, and put them there. Right? No one's going to mess. No, it's very hard to get onto a military base. Not impossible, though, with the drones. All right, something else we got to worry about. I want to, when we come back, we'll go to the hearings on Capitol Hill. Not always the most exciting thing, I grant you, but watching Todd Blanche, who is the nominee for the Attorney General, and having seen that man in that crummy courtroom downtown as a defense attorney and President Trump as a defendant, and Emil Bove as another defense attorney, and seeing where those guys are now, the President of the United States, the Attorney General nominee, and a federal appellate court judge. It's just beautiful, and they never dreamt it was going to happen. They thought the moment they mentioned Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen and his checks and all that crap that we were going to wet our pants and freak out and vote for Joe Biden. You know, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. Isn't that what they said? Dumb, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. They just don't understand us, do they? All right. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I'd like to dip in to see how our buddy is doing there, Todd Blanche. I do feel like he's a buddy. When I first met him, I don't know, he was just very laid back and cool. and he's about my height. I'm like, I feel like I know this guy. From Brooklyn, by the way. It's very much, lifelong New Yorker. Pump up the volume. Chris Coons, the Democrat from Delaware, is questioning him.
Presented by law, so technically he's correct. I think the whole thing has been a disaster.
They got John
John
Yoo speaking at this point. John Yoo is a great attorney, but he's just an analyst. I wanted to hear the guy himself. They're dipping in and out. I think it's important enough to just listen to the whole thing straight through. John Yoo, by the way, is a guy who I like him a lot, but there was a time where I didn't like him. He came up with the memo, the legal justification for torturing people. I know they didn't call it torture, but I don't know. Are you familiar with waterboarding? They say you feel like you're going to die, and you're convinced you're going to die. It's enhanced interrogation. Okay, whatever you want to call it. Hey, we have to do some of that, maybe. The problem is, when they catch our guys, they do what? They torture. John McCain, for all of his faults, strongly believed in the humane treatment of enemy prisoners of war, EPOWs. Enemy prisoners of war, EPOWs, just because of that. And those who are going to be caught, who are likely to become POWs, pilots, that kind of thing, it was especially important to them. And John McCain, of course, a pilot. He flew the A-4 Skyhawk, which, oh, by the way, I used to fly. It's so cool that I flew the same plane that John McCain flew. The A-4 Skyhawk, the thing looks like it's going fast just sitting there. I remember when I was in flight school, I saw a great big picture when I walked into the unit where you check in. You check in, you let them know you're here, you got to fill out paperwork. There was a great big picture of a A-4 Skyhawk on the deck of an aircraft carrier. And I said, is that a student in that plane? And the guy told me, yeah, that's a student. I'm like, how old is he? And he's as young as 23, as old as 26. And I'm like, man, and he gets to fly that thing as a student. He's not even a graduate. He's not officially a naval aviator, and they let you fly this thing off of an aircraft carrier. I'm like, I got to do that. There was that, and also the fact that I dated a girl at the time who was also a flight student. She was in the Navy. And the idea, you see, we're all competing. You want jets. Everybody wanted jets. But most got helicopters. But I thought if she got jets and I got helicopters, that would mean in the very first flight in a jet, she would go faster and higher than I ever would in a helicopter. And I could not have that happen, so I worked my ass off to get jets because it's based on grades. And thank God. It was great motivation. We broke up and all that stuff. But I thank her for her service, actually, because that's why I got jets.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Unvarnished. I saw a guy yesterday kind of complain about how the media lied to him about what was said by President Trump about good people on both sides, right? It was a total lie, and it got just repeated all over the place. And it more than just a lie, it became a philosophy, right? Joe Biden, the very first thing he said in his campaign for president was the Charlottesville lie. The very first words out of his mouth to justify his running for president. The whole damn thing was based on a lie. Joe Biden, go figure, a liar, right? And so all that to say, whenever you can, don't go through a middleman when it comes to anything really important. Media. Plural of medium. And a medium distorts, it bends, it does all kinds of crazy things. It's the interpretation of the person who's presenting it, summarizing it, right? All kinds of games you can play. So that's why I encourage people. You'll be smarter than anybody in the fake news because they don't have the time, inclination, patience, or ability to do some of the stuff that we do. to read the documents, to listen to the testimony, to read the transcripts. Oh my gosh, President Trump said something. Oh gosh, listen to this. And then the soundbite, right? Soundbite's about 15 seconds long. Yeah, but the whole damn thing is an hour and a half, right? Or 45 minutes or whatever it is. They don't have that kind of time. And they're too busy scrolling, and they're too busy bragging about themselves, right? Looking at themselves in the mirror. That's another thing about social media. You can't be a good observer if you're always looking at yourself in the mirror. I saw somebody, a fake news person. I don't want to. Well, they work at ABC News, and they went to Alaska, right, on a big trip to Alaska. Hey, look at me, I'm going to Alaska, and that's fine. I post on Instagram stuff when I have something interesting, hopefully, to say. And they go all the way up to Alaska, and what do they do in Alaska? They take a picture of themselves. It was like the picture, just a big face of this person, and I guess she was wearing a winter coat. Is that how we're supposed to really know you're in Alaska? And it was one of those sexy pics, with the mouth slightly agape, touching of the lip. When did we become, man, it's a dangerous, weird thing. Everybody, Barbizon, we used to laugh at that, Barbizon school, where you can be a model or just look like one. Now everybody wants to look like one. Worse than a model. I mean, models back in the day, in the 70s and the 80s, were classy, right? They now they just want to look like a Kardashian. It's a cliche to complain about the Kardashians, but they so polluted this country. And they I still want to figure out if it was a CIA operation. I found out something very interesting from Tony Robbins, by the way, the self-help guru on the CIA. I'm going to wait on that one for a moment. But first, this is Todd Blanche, Deputy Attorney General, Acting Attorney General, and he's up for the big job, and I think he's fantastic. Go ahead, if you don't mind.
17 months ago, I sat at this table as the nominee to be the Deputy Attorney General, and I told you that serving in the Department of Justice was my American dream. Since then, I've helped lead it, first as Deputy and now as Acting Attorney General, and I'm here today to earn your trust once more. I've lived the American dream. I waited tables to get through college, moved to New York with my wife and 2 young kids, went to law school at night, read textbooks on the late train home while I worked days as a paralegal at the U.S. Attorney's Office. From that start, I became a prosecutor and spent 9 years prosecuting violent gangs and drug dealers. I rose through the ranks of the Department of Justice as a line prosecutor, then a division chief, then as of last year, Deputy Attorney General, and now Acting Attorney General. But I did not take that path for a title. I took it to make a difference for American families and the towns they call home. I am exceedingly grateful to President Trump for his trust, and to my family who have carried me through every long day and late night. My wife, Christine, our wonderful children, Sydney and Justin, my granddaughter, Blaine, who's here today. All of them are here today. My wonderful friends, many of whom are here today, are really what make this worth it and what gets me through my days. And so I want to thank them for not only being here today and supporting me, but also being with me every step of the way of the journey that we're on together. My family's blessings should be available to all Americans. When a family can send their kids to school, walk their neighborhood after dark, and build a life without fear, every promise of the American dream is within reach. When they cannot, none of it is. That's my job, securing safety for every American. I'm pleased to testify again today to tell everybody here that we are doing just that. We are keeping America safe. Since President Trump took office, it's been said a few times this morning already, but it bears repeating, murders are down roughly 20% nationwide. We have the lowest murder rate since 1900. Violent crime arrests are up nearly 114%. We've taken almost 5,000 child predators and human traffickers off the streets. And the Department of Justice has filed nearly 100,000 indictments and informations since January 20th, 2025. Additionally, in just the last 4 weeks, in just the last month, we've paid $96 million in claims through the Public Safety Officers Benefits Program to eligible surviving families of fallen public safety officers, even while fewer law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty than the prior years. And obviously, these are not just numbers. Each one is a family that still has its son or daughter and an officer who came home for dinner. If you look at Washington and Memphis as examples, where we have worked with federal, state, and local partners, pulling thousands of criminals off the streets in those two cities. Homicides in D.C. are down about 60%, and overall crime in Memphis declined by more than 40%. We've seized thousands of illegal guns, brought more than 150 missing children home in those two cities, and cleaned up parks and spaces family once avoided, so you can take your kids and loved ones there once again. We are enforcing our borders. We are prosecuting the smugglers who profited from an open border, removing criminal aliens, and dismantling gangs like MS-13 and TDA. We're smashing the cartels and ending the scourge of drugs in our communities. We designated the major cartels as foreign terrorist organizations because that's exactly what they are. And we're using every tool that unlocked: narco-terrorism charges, forfeiture, and extraditions. Dozens of cartel leaders are now in American custody. Drug seizures are skyrocketing, and overdose deaths are finally falling. We are protecting taxpayers. Last year, the department brought the largest healthcare fraud takedown in American history, more than $14 billion, and another $11 billion in total fraud in just the last 3 months. That's money stolen from the fisc, stolen from Medicare, from seniors, working families, and we're clawing it back. We're doing all of this, I will add, through partnership. Federal agents, state troopers, county sheriffs, local officers, and state attorneys general in your home states, all pulling in the same direction. That is what happens when we fight crime together, and I want to bring that model that we've done in a few towns to more communities in every state. Above all, we are restoring American trust. In recent years, we watched the Justice Department turned against many of you and a former president, and it damaged the public's faith in justice. We are fixing that. Members of this committee on both sides have fair questions about the hard debates of the past year, and I welcome them. I'm proud of what we've done to help American families see safer streets and to have a fair shot at the life they're working to build. None of this is a Republican or Democrat issue. Every senator here has constituents who just want to be safe. The men and women of this department are the finest people I have ever worked with, and leading them is the honor of my professional life. We are keeping America safe, and we are just getting started. I love this country. I love the Department of Justice. Thank you very much, Chairman, for the opportunity to appear before this committee today, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Well, what a beautiful statement. Very beautiful. I give him a 94%, maybe a 93. An A, a very solid A, not an A+. It was wonderful, right up until he talked about how much he loved the Department of Justice, okay? How much he wanted to lead the career men and women of the Department of Justice. Oh, boy. You know what we call this? Capture. Capture. You can't be captured by the staff. Don't think that the staff that works there are somehow superior because they work there. They're career men and women of the Department of Justice. That's a huge problem. Maybe we shouldn't have any career people who work there. Yes, they should all be politically appointed, Politics is not a bad word. That's the freaking language of democracy, for crying out loud. We vote for the president appoints. That's how you have a democracy for real, a constitutional republic. All these and to hear him, quite frankly, kiss the ass of those people. Now, part of it, you have to do that. I mean, it's one thing for me to shoot my mouth off about how crummy some of these people are. He's got to see him every day, right? And it's part of the strategy. There are some people on Capitol Hill who want to hear this kind of talk. And not to say everybody, look, just don't make them out to be anything more than they are. They're people with jobs. And when you go around and start pretending that these people are somehow morally superior to your regular person out there, that's an issue. And we have too much of that. Too much falling in love with these people. Career men and women. All right, now we want to go over to Jay Clayton. I love this guy, Jay Clayton, former U.S. attorney of the Southern District. I don't know what it is. He's got a lot of Democrat support, which ordinarily would make me suspicious. But one guy tried to come after him hard. Jon Ossoff. Have you heard of him? This little twerp from Georgia. He's a senator. He's about 36 years old. Rich kid. You know what he did after college? Documentaries. He did documentaries. Now, fine. Okay. But you don't make money making documentaries. You're right. Rich people give you money, or you take money from your parents to make a documentary. There are like 2 documentaries in the world that make money. His isn't one of them. So I kind of like, okay, what the hell have you really been doing? He's a rich kid. But they say this is the hot guy. This is it. This could possibly be the Democrat nominee. He's running for re-election right now in Georgia. And it's not exactly a walk in the park. But if he wins that thing, he goes to the top of the heap for presidential contender. So we got to watch him, Jon Ossoff. And it's totally fine. It's actually more than fine. You have a duty to investigate fraud, and the people are allowed to have it done. The people, not some bureaucrat, the people. You ready for this? Okay, we have, again, my friend Jay Clayton versus Jon Ossoff. Go ahead.
That Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid in Georgia earlier this year?
You discussed that with me yesterday in your office.
Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid earlier this year?
You brought it to me, my attention.
What is going
yesterday.
on here? You've said at the beginning of this you have an obligation to be honest and forthright with the committee. I'm asking a very simple question. Are you aware that Director Gabbard was present at the Fulton County raid earlier this year? Yes or no? Are you aware?
I was.
You won't answer that question either.
I just said I was made aware of it by you yesterday.
The first time you learned that Director Gabbard was present at that raid was in my office yesterday?
It was the first time that, in my recollection, I've thought about it recently. Now, was I aware of it before?
What?
You brought it to my attention yesterday.
Okay.
I had not.
So you had not known
I had
until...
I had not thought about it until you brought it to my attention yesterday.
Your answers lack credibility. Your testimony lacks credibility. You're being evasive, and you're not being candid or forthright. And everybody across the country is going to watch this and know that. Are you aware that former Director Gabbard testified that her presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president?
I'm not aware of that until now.
Okay, you are now aware of that.
Yeah.
Are you aware that members of this committee are already probing Director Gabbard's potential misconduct in this matter?
No, I don't. I'm not privy to your probe into.
Are you aware that the...
All right. Wasn't the best. It's got to be that one little thing there. Now that's Jay Clayton. He doesn't do this day in and day out. He doesn't have to go to war with these people. He's been hanging around with a bunch of lawyers, right, on his team. And so it was a little bit rough. There's a way to answer that question. Kind of a fumble. Jon Ossoff. He's got that indignation thing down and always plays well with Democrats. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Be right back.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I take my time on this Jack Smith stuff. I'm going through this document that Grassley produced, and it looks like this boy either committed perjury or knew he was being deceptive. Perjury is a very, very tough thing to prove, and a little worm like Jack Smith knows how to tell the truth carefully enough without lying. You know what I mean? Have you ever heard that one? If you tell the truth carefully enough, you never have to lie, but you're still deceiving. And there ought to be a law against that. All right, who's out there? Larry, how are you?
Good, Greg. Long time no speak. Listen, the state of Tennessee is getting ready to execute a woman who committed a crime while she had the emotions of a child. Krista Pike. She was chronologically just 18, but she had the emotions of a child, and they want to kill her. This is revenge. This is everything the Bible counsels.
Well, hold on a second. What did she do? What is she alleged to have done? Not alleged. What was she convicted of doing?
Murdering a schoolmate who thought was taking her boyfriend, but her boyfriend egged her on and participated in the murder, and he was not sentenced to death. She was.
Let me see here. What is this person's name? Yeah, you don't get too many women on death row. Now, what makes you say she was a mind of a kid?
Oh, I'll tell you why. Because right after she was convicted and sentenced to death, I believe it was in the same day, she started hysterically crying like a child.
Well, that's what I would do if I were convicted. That sounds like somebody who's emotionally in touch. I don't know, man. You're making all these observations from Brooklyn. Are you sure? Do you know? Have you read the mental health evaluation? And this is a big thing, people, they fake mental illness. They fake these things all the time. It's like, kids faking being sick, not to go to school. They would fake this, not to be killed.
Well, this was already documented. The fact is...
Well, you say it's documented. Have you looked at the documents? I don't know. How old? What? A child? What mentality did they say she had?
She was a product of a broken home, abuse, abusive mother, and then she fell into a cult. And then the fact is, when you could see her burst into hysterics because she.
Let me ask you something. Why is this case? Why did they capture your attention? It's in Tennessee, after all. I haven't heard about it myself.
I'm a staunch supporter of the death penalty. There is an old woman who's waiting decades. She's seething for revenge, and that's why they're going to kill this woman. Okay, because
because the old woman wants her dead. The victim of the crime, in other words.
The mother of
the mother. Victim. Well, we got to listen to her.
She wants revenge. That's not proper. This is. You're going to kill a child because...
No, well, number one, she ain't a child, and 18, I don't know, man. I'll take a look into it, but as you just said, you're a proponent of the death penalty. I used to not be, and now I am. And God can square these things away if he has to later. I don't know, man. I would like to know a little bit more. Let's not blame the mom, though. Okay, fair enough. And she could be faking it.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?